I'm Chef D,
And I'm Dr. K.
and we're here to talk about foraging today, going out and looking for wild ingredients that can grow anywhere. And this is just a sampling of what you get, and this is just one day's foraging. So, it changes throughout the year, changes throughout the seasons with the weather. Something always is new and coming up and exciting, but especially in spring when, the Native Americans would go out and they would get those first greens of the spring, and it was such a celebration for them because they'd been eating, dried, venison and dried fruits and dried nuts and berries. They'd make a bar out of that, a paste that they could carry around, and it was nutritious, but it didn't have that green, that kind of vitality that green things give.
And all the different flavors and variety that you get from the different greens.
So it is really a rainbow, and this is stuff, again, that I just harvested off our property. And yes, we do have it set up as a edible landscape. So that means that we have blueberries and fruit trees and currants and all kinds of wild things. We live on a lake, so we can catch bluegills and bass and all kinds of fish. We used to set out trot lines and catch catfish overnight and snapping turtles. So we really try to eat from the earth and celebrate that. And part of that is foraging for these spring greens. Now, some of these are a little bit more domesticated, and some of these are truly wild.
Okay.
The red buds here are something that the Native Americans did eat, and they're these pink flowers, and it is the red bud is a member of a legume family, which means that it has a bean on it. So just like honey locust and other trees, it will produce a bean later. So you can eat these spring greens and flowers now. They've got a touch of sweetness, a little bit of tannin, and that tannin is that healthy tannin that you have in red wine. It's kind of the same, it is the same chemical in there. So later on there'll be some small beans. You can eat those beans when they're about an inch long, but when they do get bigger, they get too tough.
Okay, so
But,
you can eat them in a stir fry or in a
Well, the beans,
dish?
yeah, they'd be great in a stir fry,
Okay.
great with any kind of vegetable dish, even steamed and chilled and then served on a salad.
Okay.
So that's a great thing. Another item that you find this time of year is garlic mustard greens. Okay, this is a member of the same family as broccoli, and broccoli also has rapini in the same family, and Chinese broccoli. Those are all different names for different kind of bitter broccolis. But if you taste this is called garlic mustard, and it has that broccoli flavor, but with a nice amount of mustard and garlic in it. And when it's young like this, you can eat the stems and everything. So you can just hack this up and eat the whole thing. As it gets later in the season, and these seed pods gets bigger, you can only eat the leaves. But that is a great dish, and you're helping the environment when you go out and pull this, because the Sahara Club and different state and national parks organize garlic pulls, and it's a great time for you to get out and meet people and get some physical activity.
and learn the different types of wild vegetables and produce that are out there.
Absolutely. There are people in Central Park and New York City. There's a guy called the Wild Man, and he'll take people on tours. You can just look that up online. I think it's Wild Bill or something like that. But he will take you out even in the middle of Manhattan and show you some of these wild edibles. Let's move on to wild onions. Again, another ingredient that the Native Americans ate. And these look a lot like chives, but they are wild onions. And
Yeah, and you can put an eye out with those, kid, Ralphie.
all right, so you can clean these up and chop them up and use them in things like potato pancakes or veggie stir fries or marinades. When the greens are nice and young, like into May and April, May, maybe into June, you can still use these just chopped up like you would chives. But then as the plant gets older and more mature, these will become very tough, but they still have a lot of flavor. So you could bend them over and stuff them into a bluegill or a bass and then roast that off or grill it. Or you could make a flavored vinegar out of that, where you just take some hot vinegar with a little bit of sugar and a little bit of salt, and you put these onions in a big container, and then you pour that vinegar in, and you can seal that up, and that will last for years, and you'll always have that flavor of spring with you. Another family of green things are burdock. Do you know anything about burdock and sorrel?
A little bit. My grandmother used to go and pick wild greens and used to take me with her. So she'd pick dock. She'd call it dock, but yes.
Yeah. So these are all members of the sorrel family. And sorrel is also French sorrel, which is very, very pretty and almost like it's like a big tongue sticking out at you. They all kind of have that tongue-like shape to it. So we have the burdock or dock, and then we have the blood sorrel. And these are all delicious, but they have completely different flavors. The French sorrel is very lemony, and it's really like a lemon balm. So you can use that if you want to bring lemon flavors to scallops or salmon dishes or even pork dishes. Delicious. Sorrel and chicken is great. I also like to make a potato and sorrel soup.
Yeah.
So potatoes are very, very mild, and then that touch of sorrel brings it out. Burdock, there's several different members of the same family of wild dock that you can eat. So you can look that up in a lot of these foraging guides. So I always suggest, if you're going to do this, do some research, look for good guides, and there's other ones that I have where they're much more round leaves, but burdock is delicious.
So someone wants to start doing this natural foraging. Where should they do this? Where shouldn't they do this?
Well, that's a very good question, because you want to choose areas that are clean. Okay, so you don't want to be right next to an interstate highway or even a country road where they have used salts and chemicals to treat the roads. You really want to stay at least 15 to 20 feet away.
Okay.
And then there are things like wild mushrooms, morels especially. People have their favorite patches. So if you go on someone's property, and here in Indiana, you might get a warning shot fired at you.
It's called trespassing.
Yes. So
and
you better
morels, you better not trespass.
Yeah, ask permission before you go on someone's property, please. And don't write me any nasty letters if you get shot. Ramps also. Ramps are wild leeks. They have kind of the same shape as this, but they're very, very oniony, and they're delicious, and people are crazy about them. And if they have a ramp patch on their farm, they don't want you going in there and touching them. Okay, so ramps, they're festivals for ramps. They're beautiful wild ingredients. Another good spring ingredient is this polk. They call it polkweed or polk salad, and it's a good old country grain. Have you ever heard of that before?
Oh yeah.
So what was your story on polk?
With my grandmother hunting greens. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely, she would cook them some way, either cook them down as with other greens, or sometimes she would fry them. She would fry the leaves.
So that's what we do here in the Midwest. We cook things down. So you can cook a pot of greens down. You can cook a pot of dandelions down. But these are also really great steamed, and they taste a lot like asparagus. And you only want to eat these probably for the months of May and June maximum. If you keep picking it off, if you have some growing around, you can keep picking them off, and you want to eat them when they're less than 10 or 12 inches tall, and steam them. Use them great. You can use the leaves and the stems. Really, really delicious. Another thing that people see along the road is they see dandelions and they see violets. Again, you don't want, if those are on lawns, you don't want to eat wild greens from lawns that have been treated with pesticides. And so, if you have the local green guy coming around spraying your yard, you probably don't want to eat your greens out of your own yard.
Or close to a neighbor's if they've had theirs sprayed.
Because there is carryover.
And runoff. That's
right? So these taste really nice. Slightly sweet, very floral, and you can eat the leaves too. The leaves will be kind of heart-shaped and really, really pretty. I love them tossed with other greens. Another great wild vegetable is lamb's quarter, also known as German spinach. It's a member of the amaranth family, and these are really, really young, tender guys that you can eat the whole thing. Very earthy. I actually like this better than traditional spinach, and it's free. And this will grow it loves lightly disturbed soil, and it will grow there'll be fields of it. Another thing that grows in the fields, you'll see this out in cornfields, is wild cress. And they also call it winter cress. And it has a very floral, delicious flavor as well. And you can use this either steamed or just the way you'd use watercress served with a roast beef or something like that as a salad. And you'll see these in fields and stuff when you're driving around. Usually in low-lying areas that have a little bit of water retention is wintercress. Okay, and everyone's heard of watercress, and it kind of looks a lot like watercress, and it has this beautiful yellow flower. All that's edible, and this is great. I'd love to serve it with roast beef or in a salad. Has kind of a citrusy, floral flavor. One of Martha Stewart's favorite herbs and wild collectibles is called chickweed. And this is a low-lying kind of succulent plant. Comes out in the mid to late spring. And when you taste this, to me it tastes kind of like green peas. And it's really nice to, kind of cascade over a piece of grilled fish. I like to use it as a garnish, but it is an edible garnish. And you taste that kind of sweet green, really healthy flavor. Earthy. Over here is something that I grow in the garden, and we plant every year lots of garlic. And when you plant garlic, all you do is you break the head apart into the different toes, and then you can kind of scatter those around and then cover them up with compost. And you want to do that in the late summer, and then in the spring you'll get these green plants coming up, and they'll of course be growing them there. And when they're too close together, they're not going to form really nice bulbs. Because the energy that's needed to produce a plant. So you either need to separate them or to use them as green garlic. And I like to make green garlic soup. I like to use these in vinaigrettes. I like to make green garlic pesto. So you can just grind this up with some olive oil and Parmesan cheese and use it in pastas and dressings and things like that. So that's another great thing to enjoy in the spring. Wild arugula. This is another one of those ingredients. Yeah, this has kind of a meaty, peppery flavor. Really good. Great in salads. And always let a few of these things go to seed, and then those seeds will be distributed around the property, and you'll just find these little exciting little treasures that you'll find around the yard.
Produce sections.
Yeah.
In your own yard.
Dandelion comes from the French word don de lion, and you can see right there that these leaves look like they have lion's teeth on them.
And don de lion?
Don de lion.
Means?
Tooth of the lion.
Of the lion, okay.
And they do have kind of a biting flavor. They are a little bit bitter, but anytime you have some of these bitter greens like the dock and the dandelions, you can introduce flavors like, they like to introduce fatty flavors, a little bit of sweetness, and a little bit of acidity. So when you're making the dandelions, you could add some bacon or some sausage to them. You could add a little bit of honey. You could add poached egg on top of them. So you want to hit all those different flavors in your mouth. You want to hit the sour, the salty, the bitter, the sweet, and umami, which is kind of
using this variety to get those layers of flavors into your foods.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is like a rainbow of color and texture and flavor. So you really want to incorporate all those things. I think that too many people have a very regimented diet. They say now that how many people are going out to eat these days?
It's now for the first time, people are eating most of their meals out than those who are mostly eating in. So most people are eating most of their meals out.
And to me that's tragic because
absolutely.
You have the family that you're not bringing together to do the cooking, to do the whole process of nurturing and gathering and communication. Everyone's off in their own little worlds, doing their own little things with their cell phones
eating
processed food made by corporations instead of made by mom.
That's right.
No. Or dad. So anyhow, that's my little talk on foraging and finding.
Your soapbox?
Yeah. And I think that this should encourage all of you guys to get out there and take a walk and see what's around. And take a look at that guidebook with you. Look it up. Make sure that you're eating the right things. Don't want anybody to get sick. If they do, they can call Dr. K. All right.
I'm not a medical doctor.
So anyhow, this has been a fun day at Sauteing Off the Pounds, and look forward to more of this kind of cooking and life learning classes that we're going to do with you.
Have a great day.